that's what I always say. Like, if anyone gets hurt, it's like, hey, I don't want you to worry about any results that happen this next year. When you're your first year back, don't worry about results. Just get through it healthy, and I promise that next year you're going to be back to the guy that you were prior to having surgery. You know, because I think what happens a lot, I did it too, was like I came back from surgery and I tried to be perfect. You know, it's like, hey, I've been preparing for so much. I was striving for perfection, which is okay. You know, you want to be the best player you can be, but you also have to have realistic expectations as well. And you don't want to be perfect. Just go out there and compete. So it kind of took me a year long of kind of learning that the hard way, and the results weren't in my favor. To where then when I got drafted and stuff, that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm back to who I am, who I was prior to having surgery. I'm just going out there and competing. I'm not worried about anything else.
I see. Tarik, so initially I met you back in 2016 because you had a Tommy John surgery and came to us, and I was in charge of your rehabilitation. So many of the viewers maybe heard of or actually experienced that Tommy John UCL reconstruction surgery, maybe going through the rehabilitation process now. If you can take us through that your rehabilitation experience from that UCL repair.
When I had surgery in 2016, it was kind of in the middle of that season in college, and we were having a very good year as a team. I think we ended up winning around like 42 games that year, which is a lot of wins in a college baseball season. And we won our conference championship, regular season championship that year. And as far as when I had that surgery, I think the hardest thing was not being able to play anymore. As far as the surgery and the rehab and doing your exercises and doing all that stuff, I felt like I was really good at that. Like, I'm like, okay, I know how to do I know how to listen to what, the trainer's prescribing or what you were prescribing. I know how to do all that stuff. I know how to show up and be there and let you kind of do your magic and say, okay, this is the exercises and the progression. But that's just the trust I have in you that I don't need to worry about any of that stuff. It's like, I know that you have, like, I'm in your hands and I'm good, But I think watching my team play without being able to help, without being able to pitch was the hardest thing about rehab, and still is, even when I just had a surgery this past season as well. That's the hardest thing, is being able to, just watching your guys play and not being able to play as well.
So how did you deal with that frustration in a way?
Yeah, so at first, I don't think I dealt with it really well, to be honest. I kind of was like, frustrated, right?
Totally.
And I felt almost like worthless, to a point when it was like, all right, how are you going to make the best out of this situation? And for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to put my feet in the pitcher's shoes, and I'm going to try and dial in and say, how am I going to learn from this? Okay, I need to put myself out there. In this situation, what pitch am I going to throw? If, in this situation, runner on second, what's my goal of this at bat? Do I need to get a punch out, or can I pitch around this guy? So I just try to like put myself in situations that that I would be in a real game, and just learn from it and try to learn and get more comfortable in those situations. And that's something my pitching coach kind of challenged me with, was like, hey, I want you to continue to learn from all these people. So that's kind of what I did. Was I was like, okay, I'm gonna put myself in your shoes, and I'm gonna try and learn as much as I can from a baseball aspect as well.
I see. So looking back those days, do you feel like you learned a lot?
Yeah, they were very valuable days. Not only just baseball related, but like really taught myself how to take care of myself. Because honestly, you're trying to make your arm feel good every single day. You don't want to have any setback or anything like that. So it taught me how to take care of myself physically, and it prepared me, for different situations, to where I feel like I've been in them before, to where nothing feels new, and you don't kind of have that fight or flight thing that can happen in certain situations.
Awesome. And back in those days, we are saying like UCL reconstruction, Tommy John surgery, recovery process, rehabilitation process is about 11 to 12 months. Then now we are start saying 14 to 15 months. But not necessarily at the end of your rehabilitation, you're 100% competing, you know?
No, yeah.
So how was that transition from finishing up the rehab to actually competing, actually then start feeling like, yeah, I got this?
Yeah, so I think first off, it is that 12 to 15 month of like when you should be cleared to return to sport. But for me, I think it's almost 2 years. I think, you know, you have that rehab
Very
window
common,
year,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that next year that you're just trying to kind of relearn how to play baseball. And, you know, it's just that the energy, the adrenaline that flows, you haven't had it in 15 months, you know, so you kind of relearn how to adapt and become who you are, but also stay healthy and feel good. And that, you know, pitchers, they call it feel. You know, you want to regain that feel for your pitches, whatever you're trying to do. And that's what I always say. Like, if anyone gets hurt, it's like, hey, I don't want you to worry about any results that happen this next year. When you're you know, your first year back, don't worry about results. Just get through it healthy. And I promise that next year, you're going to be back to the guy that you were prior to having surgery. You know, because I think what happens a lot, I did it too, was like, I came back from surgery and I tried to be perfect. You know, it's like, hey, I've been preparing for so much.
Yes.
I was striving for perfection, which is okay. You know, you want to be the best player you can be, but you also have to have realistic expectations too, as well. And you don't want to be perfect, just go out there and compete. So it kind of took me a year long of kind of learning that the hard way, and the results weren't in my favor. To where then when I got drafted and stuff, that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm back to who I am, who I was prior to having surgery. I'm just going out there and competing. I'm not worried about anything else.
I see.
So yeah, that's kind of what I say is it's not only just the 9 month to 12 month, you know, frame or whatever, 13 to 15. It's like, I'd say it's almost 2 years. Like, hey, relearn how to play baseball, relearn how to just be healthy and go out there and compete. And I promise you'll feel better in, you know, a year from now.
Thank you. Yeah, as a physical therapist, I have treated so many athletes, baseball pitchers who went through the Tommy John surgery, but this is very common stories. Just like Tarik said, it's great to have the drive. At the same time, understand the realistic expectation, then go with it, then trust the process in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, everyone says trust the process, or, you know, it's a day-by-day thing, but if you actually do it, your life will be a lot less stressful because you just have to understand that it's part of injury, it's part of sports as well. You know, things aren't always going to go your way, so just trust the process, show up the next day ready to work. And
Do you remember the day or pitch when you feel like, I got this back? Or was it more like kind of gradual changes?
I think it was more gradual, but I could kind of feel, I think that second half of my senior season or redshirt junior season, whatever you want to call it, that second half of that season, I could kind of feel it start by start by start. I was like, okay, I'm getting back to who I am. Not just because of the results, but just because the mental clarity of what I was trying to do. And I was no longer worried about getting hurt again. You know, I was just out there playing. There was no more protection.
I see.
I was just out there playing. And yeah, I think that's kind of when I, you know, start by start, and you know, kind of peaked right into the draft. And then obviously my draft that first year in 2018, I had a great kind of showing, I guess, in the minor leagues that year in 2018. Because I only threw I think 20 innings or something. It wasn't a lot. But yeah, I had a good showing, and it just kind of was like, yeah, this is who I am. And it gave me a lot of confidence going into that off season and getting back to prepare for that 2019 year.
Awesome, thank you. What about going back to this time around the rehabilitation? Earlier, 2022, you had an injury in the elbow, then going through the testing, then eventually had the surgery, then going through the rehabilitation process. How was it like mental process that time? Especially you had experience in Tommy John surgery rehabilitation before. How did you go through that? What was it like?